don't think if a woman sleeps with a lot of men that she's a hoe.
Mm.
I just feel like that title is just so worn out.
Okay.
And if a woman if she wants to go out and be with other people, okay, go ahead, do what you got to do. You know, I mean, for me personally, I don't want to do that at all. But I'm just saying, we're in a new age, new generation where people do that. You know, they
Okay.
do sleep. You know, women do sleep around with a lot of men. So I just don't think they deserve to get that title that they're a hoe.
What's good, Authentic fam? Welcome back to Authentic Alphas with your boy Ayindei. And it's time to have another authentic conversation. So today, most obviously, we're talking about, does body count really matter? Well, let's see. Throughout history, human beings have agreed that there is a natural law. Certain things are wrong, regardless of what nation you happen to live in, regardless of what rules and laws that particular land has. Natural law is universal. So if you take something that doesn't belong to you, it doesn't really matter where you are, that would be stealing. That'd be thievery, right? So killing another human being doesn't really matter where you are. That would be murder. And I don't really see how high body counts are any different. Every culture pretty much has agreed that a woman that has been with multiple men isn't a good look. So why is it that in the Western world, they continue to try to shove this new age, new way of thinking on us as if somehow as time goes on, definitions change? So the young lady in that clip, for some odd reason, seems to think that she can describe a promiscuous woman, she can describe a slut, she can describe a hoe, but somehow because we're in a new year, all of a sudden those titles don't apply. She literally said, I don't think that a woman that has had these partners should be labeled a hoe, but that's like the definition of it. It's kind of strange. You know what I mean? It's kind of strange. So what I'm going to do right now is just kind of have that discussion, even though I feel like it's a common sense, you know what I mean, conclusion. But for some reason, women are struggling with this. They think they can just change the rules, move the goalposts, and redefine things to favor them and to basically indulge themselves, which is something that's kind of spanning through all of their activities and all of their mentality. It's just like we want to be able to do whatever we want to do and not be held accountable. I mean, it's that simple. It's kind of a broken record at this point. You know, you got guys more and more asking that women accept accountability, take accountability, and it's like the women are just putting all their time and their effort and their energy into trying to rationale and explain away these things, which to me is really kind of like, it's futile, because it's like the same people that you're expecting to agree with you and give you this pass are the same people that determine whether or not you get this commitment that you're also complaining about not getting. And if you look at any other place in life, especially business, I mean, companies are literally putting all this energy into to giving out surveys so that they can better understand and assess their clients, their clientele, so that they know how to sell to these people and they know how to get their vote in dollars. So I don't understand how is it that women keep complaining about what they're not getting from men, but at the same time, they don't want to hear men tell them what they would have to do, what requirements they would have to meet in order to be afforded what it is that they want, and what they're, you know, or what they need. I should say need, because according to them, they don't want it or need it, but then they complain when they're not getting it. So I want to kind of just treat this video like a person, and we'll just go through the ages or phases of a female, you know, starting from her teens all the way into her late 30s and 40s, and how the modern female is treating sex. And also, I do want to say that in my opinion, women can be compared to children in this particular topic, because they behave as this empty vessel that just absorbs what it is that they're told, and then they trust the outlets or the people that are telling them this. So in their mind, it becomes fact or it becomes reality, when it's like, you don't know these things. You only believe these things. Whereas I think men, we don't really have the luxury of just believing things. We kind of have to know. We kind of have to be able to confirm things based on some kind of proof or evidence, whereas women just keep on repeating the same things that they believe, but these things have never been proven. They've never been panned out. And I'm sorry, I must say that reminds me of children. I feel like children do that a lot. Children just, go along believing something until proven otherwise. But yet women are making it to 40 years old with none of this belief system panning out, none of this being proven, but yet they're holding on to these beliefs and they refuse to let go of them simply because it's men that are challenging these beliefs. I think if it was certain women who they've invested some type of emotion into, some type of confidence in, and that's why I compare them to children. So, before somebody with a vagina gets all offended, that's the problem right there. You're not listening to what I'm saying. You're just being offended by it because it doesn't sound, you don't like the way it sounds. But you could be a child up until a certain point as a boy. At some point in time, you're going to have to start to do things for yourself and learn things for yourself. And life is going to beat that belief out of you. You understand what I mean? It's going to beat it out of you. And also, we're not even fortunate enough to have a bar that's set so low. And I wouldn't even call it fortunate, because to be honest with you, that those low expectations, they're actually hurting the person that is going to settle for that. So if somebody's telling you, don't worry about it, you don't have to apply yourself, you're not wrong, you don't have to try harder, the problem is everything else. If you believe that, you're doing yourself a disjustice, because you're not going to get what you want, and then you're just going to accept that that's determined by everyone else, rather than figuring out, all right, how do I take charge? How can I take what I want? How can I create what I want? How can I make what I want, rather than just hope that somebody is going to give it to me? And then you find this tricky dynamic with women, because they're not being told or taught how to earn what it is that they want, how to truly deserve it. And then when some sucker of a simp comes along and actually gives it to them, what do they turn around and do? They don't appreciate it. So then it's like, you didn't deserve it to begin with, and then when you got it from somebody, you didn't even appreciate it. All right, and a lot of them are wrecking homes and wrecking families simply because they haven't invested or sacrificed to even earn the quality man, to earn the title of wife or mother, for that matter. And then they turn around, they destroy the marriage, they destroy, the parents being able to be in the same home raising the children. I just don't see people going around destroying things that they sacrificed for, earned, built, had to put in a lot. You're not going to just throw that all away. So anyway, we're going to start with what's going on right now in the high schools, and then we'll make our way all the way up to the women complaining about not being proposed to.
Boy, I'm having problems. I'm having problems reading this, sir. I'm having problems dealing with all the guys my girlfriend has fucked before me. She's 17 and a senior in high school, and she's been with 4 to 5 guys all the way and blown more. Now, why are you saying 4 to 5? If you've only fucked 4 or 5 people, she ought to be able to remember all of them. She said, my first girlfriend, I'm 18. Be easy there, buddy. Go easy. Is 17 considered underage? Because you can get busted for statutory rape. Make sure she's legal. He goes, she's my first gay girlfriend. I'm 18. Anyways, she lost her virginity in a one-night stand when she was 14, and she just gives hers away. It doesn't help that she still goes to the same school as the guy, and while they don't really talk, she fucked him again last summer, a couple of months before we started dating. I feel like she's just let people use her, and it really disgusts me. I don't even know if I love her or if I even like her very much. Am I overreacting about her past or not? No, dude, what you're doing is you're tapping into how you feel about this girl and what you're looking for in a woman, and this girl isn't it, okay? What you do, sir, is you're fighting your self-esteem or discovering it, all right? Listen to that voice, okay? This isn't the kind of woman that you're looking to be with, so I would break up with her, all right? And then get with a girl that hasn't fucked 4 to 5 guys that you're going to pass on your way to math class, all right?
Shout out to Bill Murr, somebody that's been giving us so much quality comedy for so many years, and that very well may be extinct soon. The way that this cancel culture is working, they're trying to shut down comedy, or at least comedy at its truest form, unfiltered and uncensored. And a lot of people don't realize how much he's contributed to not only comedy but also black comedy. I mean, this dude was one of the writers on the Dave Chappelle show. But anyway, that person, that young guy that was calling him in for some insight and some advice, that's the norm. There's a lot of young guys right now that are struggling with coming to terms with the young girls their age being far more sexually experienced than they are. And I mean, that's not something that I had to deal with when I was 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, anything that ended in a teen. That was extremely uncommon, or it was not expected that there would be a girl that had anywhere near as much sexual experience as the guys her age. I mean, by definition, you would call that girl a hoe or a slut. I mean, nowadays you say she's for the streets. We didn't have that expression in 90-something, but yeah, man, like, you would have been the laughing stock of the neighborhood to be even holding hands or, in any type of relationship whatsoever with a girl that got around. So all of a sudden, now the goalpost has been shifted, and it doesn't make any damn sense, because how can you invest in a female that, many other guys have had with little to no effort? I mean, Nas said it in a song, "You're a fool if your main chick is easy to fuck." And I mean, we used to get a lot of our, advice, or a lot of the guidelines from the music, but even in the hip hop, music can be misinterpreted by people who are not familiar with the culture. And you would think that they're calling everybody a hoe and everybody's, a B word or whatever. That's really not what a lot of the rappers were trying to say. They were just talking about those particular types of women. And, on the other end, they would have songs about the type of girls that you would wife up. I mean, Method Man and Mary J. Blige had a classic song about the type of relationship that you want with a girl that's loyal, with a girl that's down. But let's get back to this little young boy and his dilemma, of this girl, because obviously it's probably harder for him to replace her. It's probably harder for him to get in a relationship with a girl. And that's probably why she's in a relationship with him in the first place, is probably because she is labeled untouchable by most of the guys, most of the boys her age. So she's probably just with him because he's the only person that's going to offer her some, stability. That's the only guy that's answering the phone the next day. But, he is literally, at odds with himself, trying to make this decision where it should have been a no-brainer. Like, he should have never even been thinking girlfriend to begin with, let alone deciding whether or not he's going to stay with her. But what is alarming about this story to some folk who aren't familiar with the current trend is that girl lost her virginity at 14. Now that sounds like, oh, wow, whoa. Yeah, but nowadays that's the thing. You know what I mean? When I was 14, 15, the girls were losing their virginity around 16, 17 in the hood. And that was, of course, bad. That was bad back then. If you went to nicer areas, families that were, in the suburbs that had higher income, were prioritizing education, just better neighborhoods, those girls, it tended to be, 17, 18, and it tended to be like their longtime boyfriend, their boyfriend of a year or longer that they were losing their virginity to. So this is just my experience in my generation, growing up. That was the norm, to expect that. The girls that were from the hood, they were losing it at about 15 to 17. The girls that were, living with mommy and daddy, from a higher income family, they were losing it anywhere from, I would say, 17 to 21. So not a huge difference, but still a difference in the sense that these girls were at least with those boyfriends. They were at least with those boyfriends, right? So yeah, so that was a thing, is that the girls weren't really quick to give it up. You had to at least kind of be their boyfriend and stuff like that. You might have had to drop the L word. You might have had to tell them that you love them, so also, obviously, you had to give commitment. She had to feel like she was in love. You had to put in time. But anyway, that at least was a healthy, a healthy requirement of girls giving up their virginity. Whereas now, these young girls are just giving it up. It's glorified. And when you have the older women talking about it like it ain't nothing, what do you think the younger girls are going to do? I mean, this is how it works. If you have older guys talking about hustling, talking about being in the streets, breaking laws, what do you think the younger guys are going to do? They're going to emulate what the older, cooler dudes are doing. So it's the same thing with the females. They're going to do what the older chicks who are already developed, already got expensive bags, already traveling, already got a bunch of followers on Instagram. They're going to do what those chicks are doing, you know, because everybody wants to grow up fast. Okay, so we've just established that these girls are losing the V card extremely early in the game. 14, bro. 14, I wasn't even thinking about girls. You know what I mean? So that's just crazy that girls are already losing it that early.
I don't know if this is a thing, but it should be a thing. I feel like you should have a number, like your goal of bodies you want, and like don't have sex with them because you want to reach that number, just have sex with them because you want to. And if you happen to reach that number, have a huge party, like a fucking rager, and you're gonna invite all your friends, and then you're gonna invite all the guys that you slept with, and you're gonna send them like a nice invite saying like, oh my god, thank you, like for helping me make this happen, blah 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 blah. Are they gonna show up? Probably not. If you're on good terms, maybe give them a +1 so it's not weird. And at like the middle or the end of the night, you're gonna have an award show. You're gonna be like, and give all the guys an award. And they're probably not going to be there, but I feel like it's really fun. And if you want to be a hoe, I feel like this is a good idea. So someone please do it.
And she's already telling you where a lot of the girls her age, where their head is at. They think that it's cool to have a high body count. They're actually pursuing this high body count. And what I want you guys to pay attention to is the duration of time, you know, versus the potential amount of partners, so you could see how it would escalate dramatically by the time a girl is in her 20s and then even further on 30s. Now, you tell me, how can a woman possibly pair bond, be marriage material, and even be worthy of being a mother when she's already in the double digits? And that's being generous, but she's already in the double digits when she's in her mid to late 20s. That's crazy. But listen, that's where we are. And of course, all of this, the science backs it up. Biology backs it up. I mean, but of course, women aren't interested in that. Like, they're not interested in, like, you know, the truth, you know, what the proof that's been proven. But yes, women do have an inability to pair bond past a certain amount of partners. And that shouldn't be hard for women to figure out, because when women lose their virginity, they're usually bonded to that guy that took their virginity for some time, and they're willing to tolerate so much from that particular guy before they call it quits. Now, why do you think that is? The best way that I've heard it explained is that a woman's ability to pair bond is like an adhesive. It's like a piece of tape. And when you put a piece of tape on something, it sticks really good the first time. When you pull it off and try to put it on another surface, it sticks, but not as good as the time before. And then every time you pull it off and try to re-stick it to something, it sticks less and less until it doesn't stick anymore at all, until it's like you're putting a dry piece of paper on a surface. There's not going to be any adhesive left. That's exactly how women's ability to pair bond with a mate is designed. Also, women suffer a mental trauma and an emotional dissatisfaction from being used simply for sex. As much as they act like, oh, it's just sex and blah, blah, blah. Like, they say that so proudly and so boastfully, but why? Because they've been programmed to think, act, and behave like men. For a guy, yes, they could very easily be no emotional attachment with sex. And a lot of times there still is for guys. Let's face it, a lot of times guys do get emotionally attached to girls that they sleep with, especially if you like the girl. But for women, just the act of sex alone has an emotional component. But, you know, women nowadays can't admit that they're soft. They can't admit that they're the fairer sex. God forbid. For creatures that are so damn emotional, it's kind of ironic they have such a difficulty admitting that they have an emotional toll to pay for things.
Count is for a girl our age, college girls?
7,000.
No. They're fucking like a girl who's like what, like 21, 22, 23?
Yeah.
15 for sure.
These
Yeah.
bitches is fucking
15
these bitches
or
is
more.
fucking-
Now, though,
he
now-
thought he thought 10 was, he was like 10 is high. He thought like he's
Well, I
like
think-
that estimation of like he didn't think
You got to multiply that, though, by 4.
The girls that I
7.
talk to and associate with and fuck around with, they don't have high body counts.
Yeah.
That's what they tell you, bro.
Well, yeah, they
You
might
trusting
just,
the bitches too much.
Well,
Look at you.
it
on,
depends
man.
on what kind of girls you associate yourself with, because I do know tons of girls that are super tight with like the amount of dick that they'll take, and they just take pride in that. But then I know so many girls that are like OnlyFans girls, and to them it's like whether they got 10 dudes on their list or 200, it's like who gives a fuck? If I don't have fucking herpes, then who cares?
Yeah.
And if they do have herpes, who cares?
I done knocked bitches down that told me they had the same body count from when I knocked them down too. So I'm like, you bitches be lying, kid.
2 years later, she still gets you with the same number.
I still have 5. You lying, kid.
What you been doing this year?
That was a short little clip of a conversation about college-age girls with, of course, no jumper, and the minorities. Some really cool dudes. I actually got to spend a weekend hanging out with those guys, so those guys are actually cool as all hell. Some really interesting young boys because they have a pretty solid perspective on what's going on around them and the girls in their age group, which is primarily what they deal with is females in their very same age bracket. And just like he said, these chicks, they be getting slayed, bro. These college-age chicks, they be getting slayed. So we saw the high school age or middle school age. A lot of these girls are losing their virginity these days. But so we saw how loose the high school girls are with it. They're even trying to have parties to celebrate their body count. And now the college girls, you know, they're forgetting more guys than they can remember they slept with. I guess, you know, they're supposed to be there, you know, getting an education. But traditionally, women actually went to college to find husbands. But if you say that to a modern chick, she'll act like that's the craziest thing she's ever heard. But people do get involved with things that they know nothing about and nothing about the history of. And that goes for males and females. I noticed that people get involved in stuff and they know nothing of the history. For me personally, anytime I've ever gotten involved in something, I don't care if it's a sport, a business, whatever. If I get involved with something, I want to know the history of it. So I do a lot of research to kind of understand how it came to be what it is in the present. And it's always given me great insight. I mean, even as a bodybuilder, I said, hold on. I'm going to figure out, you know, when did bodybuilding even start? Where did it start? Who started it? What was the point? What was the intention? All of that. And I worked my way up and come to find out the most information is actually found in the golden era. And I think most things are like that. A lot more information is actually found in the past than the present. So let's move on a little bit more and kind of see what these girls are talking about when they get into their mid to late 20s.
The thing that I want you guys to look at is her behavior, her demeanor. Does she sound like somebody that loves and cares about herself, or is she just throwing her body away at just anybody? Because that's also not healthy, especially if you're one of those guys that likes to go in the raw. And every single guy that I know, every friend I've had, every dude I've ever met that has a really super high body count, they always catch something. And oftentimes they catch many things. And if you don't want to get the gift that keeps on giving, you at least need to wear a raincoat. But the reality is a lot of guys, they just don't fucking care. And I remember I had a video newsletter I don't know, a few years ago. There was a guy, he was traveling and met this girl, and she was hot. She was really in him. He was really into her. He had sex with her in the raw. He ended up getting, I think it was herpes from her. And when he confronted her about it a few weeks later, it's like she didn't deny it. It was almost like she just didn't care. I mean, she had the attitude of, hey, somebody gave it to me. I'm going to karma it right back. I'm going to just give it to somebody else and screw them. And so statistically, numerically, when you're sleeping around, especially if you're doing it in the raw, it's just a matter of time before you get a gift that keeps on giving.
All right, so right there, he's telling you that, you know, the guys need to be a little bit more responsible. I know it's tough when you don't have much options sexually. As a guy, you know, it's kind of hard for you to employ self-discipline and self-restraint when you're barely getting it as it is. You know what I mean? Like, if you're super, super hungry and you're on a diet and you find yourself with there's only bad food to eat, you're gonna go ahead and eat some junk food or some fast food because it's all that's available. Even though you're trying to be on a diet and eat responsibly, it's kind of hard to make a quality, wise choice when you don't even really have much options to begin with. You know, you're gonna have the hot dog, the hamburger, the bag of chips, the bag of candy. It's like, you know, you don't even got good options to pick from. So I get that, guys. I get that. It's definitely not easy, but I put that clip in there because he pointed out something very, very important that we don't even talk about when we're talking about body count enough. Usually when we're talking about body count, we're talking about assessing whether or not a woman is relationship worthy, she's girlfriend, wife quality. But also, if these women are so reckless with it, what about the risk of STDs? So, you know, we're always worried about pregnancy and we're worrying about, is this girl for the streets? But if she's for the streets, There's a lot of things that she can come and give you that you're not going to want besides a baby, if you know what I mean. So you guys definitely got to be careful with that. I mean, yo, you know what's crazy? I remember not even that long ago. I would say like in the early 2000s. I remember I was having a ball. I was having a ball going raw dog, and it's because I thought I was doing it the most responsible way, and I still think that I was doing it super responsible, even though nowadays I don't even know how that conversation would go. But how I was doing it back in the day, back in like I would say anywhere from 2002, 2003, all the way up until like 2006, 2007. The way I used to play the game was I would go and get tested, and I would get my papers, and all the chicks that I was dealing with, I would have them go and get their papers, and it would be like a 3 to 4 day turnaround before they would get back their results. And I loved it, bro. I loved doing that because it was like a license to be reckless. You know how James Bond got a license to kill? It was like having a license to be reckless, because I put my papers up like, yo, negative, negative, negative across the board. She put her papers up, negative, negative across the board. Magnum who? You know what I'm saying? I'm not buying a Trojan nothing at that point. And I really liked that. You know what I mean? So I would never advocate for guys to like be irresponsible or reckless with their health. But I'm just being honest with you and transparent as always. That's how I used to tackle that situation, because I don't like condoms either. But I also ain't trying to be going to the doctor with a flame torch in my pants. So for me, it just seemed like the most reasonable thing. But now I feel like the girls wouldn't even want to have that conversation. The girls would be like offended. Like, what you mean go get tested? I ain't got to get tested. I ain't got to prove nothing to you. It's like, okay. But, wouldn't you want to know? But yeah, back in that time frame, the girls were cool with it. So I don't know if it was the way I was broaching the conversation, or was it just not an unreasonable thing to ask. But that's where I was going with it. And it was cool too, because it was like the chicks had to wait to get the D. I didn't have to wait to get nothing, because I was already smashing. I'm already spinning plates and keeping something popping in the stable. So, I'm smashing until she gets her results. I'm smashing, on something else that already, submitted their paperwork. But I thought it was a good way to let chicks know that, I got standards. I don't play that. And I think it was a healthy way to be possessive, because what I was saying was, I don't want nothing else touching you as long as I'm touching you. And I want you to be safe and have a peace of mind. And I want to be safe and have a peace of mind. And for me personally, it worked out well, fellas. So I don't see why that's not an option. Go get tested. Keep your paperwork. Get a physical printout of your results. And just ask that from said female. And move like that.
When niggas ask you about the body count, is because they insecure about they dick. Niggas with good dick ain't gonna ask you nothing like that. Niggas with good dick, they ain't gonna ask you about your body count. You know why? They don't give a fuck. Because they know they finna stretch that pussy the fuck out. Bitch, I don't give a fuck who you was fucking before. This pussy mine now. They finna numb your rengekyo, that pussy. They finna that pussy. So they're not finna ask you no questions like, oh, what's your body count? For what? Are you crazy? No, they're not gonna ask you that. It's always the niggas with wormy dick. I'm lying? Am I lying? It's always the niggas with wormy dick.
Man, through my teens and my 20s, it seemed like black women were the most responsible as far as like using protection was concerned, and not wanting to be called a hoe. I don't know what's changed. And I'm not saying black women didn't have children out of wedlock when I was growing up. I'm not saying they weren't a lot of single moms or whatever. But just in dealing with a variety of women, I always noticed that the black women were a lot more self-conscious. They were a lot more conscious with their bodies. You know what I mean? They were the ones to tell you, you better wear a condom. They were also the ones that were like paranoid about getting pregnant. And they were the ones that were extremely concerned about people thinking that they were loose, or that they were fast, or that they were hoes, or they were for the streets. I don't know what happened, but they've definitely downgraded in their quality of thinking and their purity. But It's just my opinion. Let's put it like that. But let's address what she said, because it's a bunch of fuckery. This is something that women do. Whenever guys have standards, they shame the guys for those standards. You know, whenever they're put in a position to answer an uncomfortable question or admit some kind of wrongdoing or misappropriation of their pussy, they always try to flip it on the man, which is like, okay. The last thing that a lot of these guys are concerned with is how you're rating their dick game. Okay? But again, this is what women do. You know, it's always the man's insecure. Every time the man is trying to make sure that the woman is of some type of quality, oh, no, what it is that you're insecure is why you're asking me that. To me, that's just as much a malarkey as when women start sentences with, if you were a real man. It's like, listen, if you were a man, we could even have this conversation. But you're not even a man. You're trying to tell me what a real man is. When's the last time you stood up to pee? Come on, man, get out my face with that. So anyway, advise your elders, guys. You know what I'm saying? Ignore 90% of what women say and just do what people have done since the beginning of time. Consult your elders. Okay? Before there was Google, there was your elders. They know stuff. They know stuff you don't know. And they've been in these situations. All the situations that are coming up in your life, 9 times out of 10, someone 10, 15, 20 years older than you, been there, done that, and they got more answers. All right? But she just went and got silly with it and took it somewhere else. Non-logical arguments as always. Shaming language as always. But it's really not that hard to understand why men would be concerned with this. It's simply because men would like girlfriends too. Okay, as much as men like variety, as much as men like to dip in many, many different pools, we would all like a personal jacuzzi of our own. We like a personal hot tub that's just ours, all right? That's why men are acting that way, and that's because we're wired that way because, you know, we're wired to procreate and have children, and when we, you know, stamp our territory, we want to know that that is ours without a doubt, and we want to know that we can trust women when we're not around and they're not eye shot. Also, her saying that like, oh, any guy that would ask that is this, and this. Okay, so what are you trying to say? You're trying to say that the guys that don't ask you that are somehow secure? They're secure in their sexuality, they're secure in their dick game? No, what it is the guys that don't ask you that are the guys that already know the answer. You're for the streets. It's just my turn. I'm going to have fun on this roller coaster, and then I'm out. That's why guys don't ask. When guys don't ask about your past dating history or your past sexual history, it's not because they're more secure than the guy that asks. It's because they've already decided they don't want anything further with you than just sex. So I wish women would stop trying to answer questions for themselves and just go to the source. It's amazing to me how women will, you know, ignore a man's explanation for something regarding a man. Like you don't want to listen to why men do or say what they do or say, but you would rather make up your own explanation for it? Like,
yo, she crazy. And I know she playing, but for every joke, there has to be a little bit of truth to it for it to even be funny. So this is probably her truth. But in order for her to form this type of opinion, or for anybody for that matter, your body count has to be high. Because you don't come to this conclusion off of 2 or 3 bodies. It has to be a nice sample size of about 20 plus. Now, since your body count is pretty high, you want to try to shame a guy for asking you about it because now you're embarrassed to tell him. See, a woman with a low body count, she'll damn near volunteer that information to you when the conversation of sex comes up by saying she's not that experienced because she hasn't had that many sex partners. But a woman with a high body count, there's no way she's going to volunteer any information about no body count numbers. Let me tell you something, ladies. There's only 2 reasons a guy is not going to ask you about your body count. One is because he don't care about the number of guys that have slid in you because he's trying to slide in too. And the second reason is because he's actually taking the time to get to know you and he's putting 2 and 2 together and he's realized you're not the type of woman that's gonna sleep around. Because any man out here looking for a wife kind of wants to know what his woman's body count is, whether she lies about it or not. Because he's not trying to marry a woman that has slept with 99 dudes and now he's the foolish one. He wants to know how many guys done threw your pH balance off. He wants to know how many guys you still sexually attached to.
He hit a lot of the key points that, you know, came to my head the instant that she was talking. The first 20 seconds, I already thought all the same things that he said. I mean, I think most guys would be thinking the same, at least older guys, more mature guys that kind of been around the block would say about the same. But one thing he did mention that I think a lot of women don't take into consideration, or at least guys definitely don't take this into consideration, is that there is a such thing as, like, you know, soul ties and being sexually tied and bonded to someone and so on and so forth. And women will reminisce on past partners. That's just the way it is. So, I mean, it would make sense that you would want a woman that has as few or as little past partners as possible, because that's just less guys for her to be comparing you to, less guys for her to be lingering over and hoping that something might be rekindled with, less guys that might be hitting her up on Facebook every holiday saying, hey, Merry Christmas, hey, happy birthday, hey, how you been? And the last thing you want is for her to text back, hey, big head, it's over. So, guys don't want to invest in women that could possibly flee the situation, and women have a really, really bad reputation right now for throwing away relationships that men have put time and effort and money into. But of course, they wouldn't be able to understand any of that. They wouldn't be able to relate to all of that. So, we're going to get a shaming language. But there are still good girls out there. That's the point, guys. So the point of this video is not to remind you that most girls are for the streets these days. It's to give you a better mind frame to kind of differentiate these girls and not waste your time and your energy. Because when you tied up trying to talk to a chick that ain't worth it, there's probably 3 or 4 girls that are worth it that are passing behind you and you didn't see them because you're too busy tunnel vision on this one chick trying to figure out, is she worth it or not? You guys got to get better and faster at assessing these women. I can tell from across the street, you know what I'm saying, by the way a chick walks, if she's for the streets or not.
I've been single for a long time.
Yeah.
And my friend suggests that I find an ugly man because he'll treat me like gold. Do you think that's true? Should I go out looking for an ugly guy?
That's 100% true. Ugly men are the best men you can get. Look, first of all, they don't get invited into a lot of people's homes. So when they get there, they really behave really nicely. Ugly men know how to fix things. You ain't got to worry about them cheating on you because don't nobody else want them. It's a wonderful experience. Get yourself an ugly man and fulfill. He'll work hard for you. He good for security, scare people off. Yeah, get your ugly man.
This woman is, I would say, in her early 30s. I mean, I don't know, maybe if she ages fast or something, maybe she's in her super late 20s, but I think she's already in her 30s. And look at how she's already talking. I've been single for a while, and you know why she's been single for a while? Because she's a beautiful woman. She's single for a while because she's tired of getting ran through. And like most women, instead of figuring out what she's been doing wrong and how she's been choosing wrong, nope, she's blaming it on guys, okay? She's not taking any responsibility or accountability, so she can't solve her problem, all right? So now she's just telling herself she's not going to date now. Because this is another thing that women do. Women are like that kid on the playground that nobody wants to play with. And instead of saying, why do none of the kids want to play with me, they pretend to not want to play with you anyway. I didn't want to play with you anyway. It's like, I'm single by choice. Really? Single by choice? Okay, but really what it is that you can't lock down the guy that you want, that's not single by choice. That's you can't afford what you want, right? So her whole been single for a while, that could mean one or two things. Either she doesn't qualify for a relationship, so she's been getting just pounded out. So she just tells herself, oh, I don't want nothing serious. I don't want a relationship. Wink, wink, hoping that the guy is the one that starts to press it. So she doesn't get her feelings hurt again by trying to get commitment that she gets rejected for. Much like guys that are afraid to make a move because they don't want to be rejected sexually. So they try to act like, oh, no, I wasn't trying to hit anyway. I don't want to beat anyway. Yeah, you want to beat, nigga. You're just afraid to put yourself out there and get rejected again. So that could be one thing. Well, the other thing is she could legit not be sleeping with anybody because she's tired of just having sex and not being in a relationship. So she might actually be doing the abstinence until I get into another relationship. She might actually be trying to adjust, not necessarily herself, but just adjust the dynamic of the relationship. Like, okay, you know what? From now on, guys are going to have to be my boyfriend first before I have sex with them. Like, that's part of it, but that's what you should have been doing when you were young. Okay, the other part of it is learning how to be a quality female. Well, I shouldn't even say that, because in my opinion, I don't believe that women just necessarily like develop or learn how to be better. I think they already come how they need to be, and it's their job to preserve it. I think these women are born, they grow up, they go through puberty, they're already pure. They're already uncontaminated, and it's their job to keep themselves pure for the right man. I feel like once they've already been, contaminated, there's really not much they can do. They're already infected, on a mental level, on an emotional level, and sometimes even on a physical level. But again, these are just my opinions, like what do I know? But anyway, so Steve go ahead and suggest that, yeah, go ahead and get you an ugly man because he will worship you. This is very important. I want you guys to pay attention to this, because this is definitely the logic of the modern female right now. They sleep around with all of the, I'm not going to keep calling them bad boys because I don't like that shit. You know what I mean? I don't like that bad boy shit. That's like weak boy language. That's weak male, beta male shaming language. Oh, he's a bad boy. These Tyrones and these Chads, like, dude, shut that shit up. What you mean is attractive guys that can have sex without a relationship. Stop trying to like shame these dudes like these dudes are somehow inherently bad people. No, maybe they're just guys that are attractive, guys that actually have some game, but also have the same awareness that most guys have as to the fact that these women aren't even relationship quality. So what are you trying to say? That these guys are bad boys because they're having sex with thoughts and not wifing them up? That makes him a bad boy? That makes him a Tyrone? That makes him a Pookie? No, he could just be a dude that's like, yo, she look good as hell, but I wouldn't date her. I wouldn't wife her. He could be very responsible. He could be a good dude. He could be an educated dude. He could be a classy dude. He could be a dude that's respectful. And all those qualities that we pride as men. So stop calling these dudes all these derogatory terms just because they get in the pussy and you're not. Cut that shit out. That's feminine. Women do that. And there's way too much of that going on in the manosphere. I've never been offended by these terms because I've always been, somewhat of a hybrid. I've always been a dude that you could try to say I'm a Tyrone, but okay. When have I not been smart? When have I not been articulate? And I don't have a bunch of bastard children running around. I don't have any warrants. You know what I'm saying? My passport is valid. It's been valid my whole life. So let's lay off of that Tyrone bullshit and that bad boy bullshit, because I know a lot of good dudes that still get in the butt with minimum effort. Anyway, but this is a strategy that a lot of the women employ. They sleep with the guys that they find attractive with no commitment, and then eventually they run into that wall in their life, and they're like, damn, I still don't got a dude that's sticking around, so I guess I'm going to have to lower my standards in a dude. Or I don't even say lower my standards, because that's not what they do. What they do is they compromise their attraction. They compromise the attraction component and say, all right, I'll get with a dude that I'm not attracted to that's going to stay, okay? And you guys got to be wary of that, because sometimes those guys know that that's what it is, but a lot of times those guys are not even, they're not even aware that this chick doesn't even like you. This chick's not even attracted to you. She's just, settling for you because you're the only dude that's going to stick around. So just be careful with that, guys. But she just basically told on herself. She just phrased it a different way, which is what women always do. Women always phrase something a different way to avoid, the bad taste in your mouth of reality. So that's why I tell you guys, be real careful when women speak, because the way they word shit is always some sugarcoating, man. And that shit'll give you diabetes.
Things I learned about relationships from my minor in psychology. Women marry less attractive men. Women will often date really hot dudes for short periods of time, but long-term relationships and marriages are often less attractive men. Not ugly, just less attractive. This is because women put all their eggs in one basket, and when that basket is a little less attractive, they have a stronger support system, and they feel really highly valued. Men heavily value appearance, so they will treat a woman better if they think she's a little out of their league.
Put this in there afterwards just to make that point. You see how this young girl, she's over here trying to get all, philosophy with it, but she did the same thing the other chick did. She sugarcoated the way that she said it. They get with less attractive guys, not ugly, just less attractive. And they date more attractive. No, stop. They're not dating more attractive guys. They're getting ran through. Okay, they're getting ran through by attractive dudes that we'll call Chads for lack of a better term. That's what happened. But again, women always sugarcoat things as not to offend other women and not to offend themselves, to offend their own feelings. They always have this ability to lie to themselves, right? The most popular example is, oh, she's not fat, she's curvy, she's big-boned, she's voluptuous. It's like somehow lying to themselves is their superpower, all right? But anyhow, let's look at the fact and the validity of what she's saying. Studies show, that means it's already been proven, that the guys that women sleep with in their youth are far more attractive than the guys that they end up marrying and settling for. Don't be that sucker, guys.
Told me that every girl's body count resets at the age of 25. And when she said it to me, I looked at her and she an idiot. But then I deeped it. If the girl in one reset their body count at 25, then you see all the man them that have cheated, surely the man them can reset that one.